both Momo and the knight look at each other, look at you, look at each other, look at their clothes, look at each other, look at you, look at the castle around them, look back at each other, then look at you and say, "Are these dresses where you're from?" Brought here, turned into a elf. And sadly, they are who you must kill. Here we go to kill Drac. You, Sir Flood, and Momo set out to find Drac, the last summoned of Nochia, who is plotting to resurrect a ancient monster. You are sitting on Momo's head as the journey begins. Momo's left hand is still slightly swollen from being stepped on by Flood, who is still none the wiser to what had happened. And Momo keeps looking up at him, kind of upset, kind of annoyed that he hasn't asked if he's okay or anything like that. Like, this man says that he is your friend, and not once has he asked or even noticed that he hurt you. And you two are walking beside Flood, and you see that Flood is pulling out what appears to be a map.
Oh great, let's see if he's as good with directions as he is with making water.
I'll let you know, I navigated myself here from the deepest regions of the flooded districts.
On purpose?
No,
That's what I thought.
it was not on purpose. I was trying to get back home, and somehow I ended up here.
Exactly.
And I ended up in a tournament, and I became a knight, and then I became an apprentice, and then I became an apprentice's knight.
Mm-hmm. And why are we letting you lead this?
Because Momo doesn't know how to read, and you just got here.
Hmm. Okay, you say so.
He looks at you, tilts his head down, looks at the map, holds it really close to his helmet where the eyes are so that he can see words, because it appears that he's like kind of nearsighted. Okay, so that's where we're going. And he shows you the map, and he points to a location. It's kind of like a little flooded area, kind of looks like a little town, but you can see that around the area with water, there also appears to be like drawn on like gravestones, right? And in the middle of the town that he's showing you is a ginormous looking castle. And he points down to the name, and it's called Blumstill.
Interesting name.
So we are going to go to Blumstill. This was the last place that Drac was seen before he turned his back on us and came up with the idea that he was going to be resurrecting the ancient monster. Now, the last thing that he did there was he turned the town into essentially a ghost town.
Okay. Why?
Well, that is the last place he was personally sent by the king. He was sent there to destroy another necromancer. And in turn, we do believe that the necromancer, after he was killed, turned him into essentially a host. So
That stinks.
you see Momo pop in and go, Yeah. Necromancers do tend to stink. Usually they sound a little bit like gurgling messes, but then Momo meets them and they just tell him to shut up and they sound very calm.
Alright.
It's very sad when you watch one of them die, because usually they come back and they're not. Oh, Momo. You see Momo dig, as he's saying all this, he's digging through the backpack that Flood has packed, and he grabs out 2 grapes, and he he starts eating them real fast, and he like takes a swig of his water as he does it, and he's like, they never seem to tell.
Alright, Momo. Anyway, how long is this gonna take?
Momo and Flood look at each other, and they look back at you. Momo's eyes like roll up. He's like, every time he tries to look up at you, he realizes that you're in his hair. He's like, and lifts his head to try and see you, and you just see Flood looking at both of you and him, going like, and his head is following you as you're being tilted back, so his head is also like tilting slightly as he's watching. And then also Momo gives up and straightens his head, and you see Flood like straighten his head out too, and his helmet kind of like clinks against his armor as he does it, because he does it a little too fast of a whip. And he says, well, it should take approximately 2 weeks to get there, but that's by foot. Luckily, you're a fairy.
Mm-hmm. And you're not.
And he looks at you and realizes you're a fairy. Ooh. And he realizes that you can't just fly him and Momo. You're not a gargoyle. You can't just fly both of them to the location. He's like, well, that's a little bit of a pain. Alright, so that'll be about a week and a half with horses. Yeah. You'd see Momo try and reach his hand into the backpack again, and this time Flood sees and just slaps his hand hard with the metal, and you hear more, ow. And you see this time now Flood just picks him up by the back of his armor and is just carrying him so that he can't reach into the backpack and try and steal any more food. And they're wandering, and you guys are wandering for, I would say, about like 20 minutes. You guys get down to the stable, and there are 6 horses. And the stable hand and the stable master look at you, Flood, and Momo, and the man looks at you and goes like, what can I help you for?
What'd you say?
What can I help you for?
Maybe speaking more clear?
The apprentice looks at him and says, he kind of can't. He's still trying to learn proper Nochian, and yeah, he's still trying to get over his orc, and yeah, he can't really say words all that well. And you just see the man look at you, point directly at you, the little fairy, and go, what?
Talk to this big guy right here.
He looks at Flood, and then you said big guy, and he looks up and he doesn't see anybody, and he looks down and he sees Flood. He's like, oh, what do you want? And Flood looks at Momo and says, "What did he say?" Momo looks up at him and goes like, "I goblin, not orc. We not same thing. Are you say that 'cause we green?" And you see Flood going back like, no, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. He looks at the man and Momo again, and the man and Momo, and the man and the Momo, and the man and the Momo, and the man and the Momo, and looks at you and goes like, "What'd he say?"
Are you asking us what do we want?
The man looks at you in particularly, winks at you, and nods his head yes.
I believe we're looking for directions.
Flood looks at you and says, "No. We are here for horses."
That too.
And the man points to his the stable hand, and then points at the stables and points to you three, and just walks off. And the stable hand looks and says, "Okay, I guess I will be helping you then. Follow me."
Let's go, Momo.
Momo starts walking forward, following the stable hand. Flood follows right behind him, and you guys get to the horses, and you see multiple different horses. You see a black, what looks like a black stallion and a white stallion. You see a Winnebago. I don't know horses. Let's just say they're all stallions. It's a stable full of stallions. You got a few black ones. You got a couple white ones. You got one brown one, and one of the black ones has black and brown spots on it, and one of the white ones has black and white spots on it, and another one of the black ones has some white spots on it and some brown spots. And the stable hand looks at you three and says, any that you are interested in?"
What about you, Momo? You pick, because I'm with you.
Momo walks over to the one with the white one with black spots all over it, and goes, "What's this one's name?" And the stable hand looks at him and goes like, "Oh, that's Titty." Momo looks at Flood and looks at you, and then looks at the horse and slightly blushes and goes like, "Titty? Yeah, that's Titty. That's Winnow. That's Winnebago. That's Armstrong. That's Domino, and that's Egghead."
Interesting choice of names for your animals.
What about you? Which one are you interested in, little fairy girl?
Whatever one Momo picks is the one we'll go with.
Momo like Titty.
Titty it is.
All right. He gets Titty out of the out of its corral, and like lines him up and puts a saddle on him. He gets him ready. Gets you and Momo up on there. Looks at Flood, says, "Which one would you like?" And he looks at Eggplant for Egghead for a second. Goes like, "Why is he called Egghead?" And you just see the man go and take like Flood's head and angles him lower and lower and lower till he's essentially on the ground, and then faces him up. And on the chin of the horse is what looks like a giant egg. And it's not a fur patch. the horse has a tattoo of an egg on its chin. And he goes like, I like an inked up horse. Let's take him. And he goes like, all right, you got Egghead. And takes him, gets him saddled up, and they begin like walking up to the counter. And the stable boy looks and says, all right, that'll be about 5 gold pieces. And Momo looks at you and Flood and says, why 5? Most horses go for a gold piece or even a couple silver. Why 5 gold pieces? The stable hand looks at Momo and says, do you really want to know?
Yeah, I do. I'm curious.
He looks over at you and says, all right. He also winks at you for some reason and goes, you see, these are our mated horses. For some reason, you guys unknowingly picked the couple.
That still don't help me realize why we're paying so much for horses.
Because coupled horses, if they are together, tend to run faster. And they tend to have a link to the person that they are with. So if you lose your horse, as long as you have the other one, they are spatially linked. Which means that horse will find you.
Alright then.
Flood looks at him and just gives him 5 gold pieces and says, alright, well, I guess we got Egghead and what was yours, Momo? Titty! Momo says all giddy like a child, and Fly goes, yes, Egghead and the titty. A great combination. And he gets himself up on top of the horse, and you all begin to ride towards Blumstill.
And the adventure begins.
After you begin going, you hear essentially you hear a cry in the woods.
Nope. That's never a good sign. Just keep going.
You say that to Flood and to Momo, and you hear again a scream, and this time it sounds like a child begging for help.
Dang it. Alright. Let's go.
Alright.
If anything crazy happens, we're out of there.
You, Flood, and Momo begin riding into the woods where you heard the sound, and you get into a very big, like, essentially a clearing, right? And you begin to hear essentially child voices coming from every direction all around you. And you see glowing red eyes begin to peek out of the darkness all around you.
Oh, I don't like this at all. I told you we shouldn't have stopped.
Flood looks at you and seemingly agrees, wishing that he would not have stopped, because you are all in the place of a bunch of Gorphs childlike monsters known to lure unsuspecting travelers into the woods to feast. You see one of the Gorphs poke its head out, and it is about the size of a small child. It pokes its head out, and it's gray skinned. Its eyes are beet red, right? It has very sharp teeth and claws, and it looks almost uncannily like a child was turned into a monster. But you can see very clearly that this particular Gorph is covered in blood.
Alright guys, let's see how fast these horses actually get.
They begin to run and charge and gallop as fast as they can away, but the Gorphs begin surrounding you at every corner, so there's no running out of this situation. Your horses are sadly not fast enough to get you out of the situation of the Gorphs. You see Sir Flood pull out his sword and begin to cast water magic all around it. And he looks at you and looks at Momo and says, "Alright, I want you to keep the horses alive, and you," and he points to Momo, "keep her alive at all costs." And you see Momo pull out two daggers out of his essentially out of like his back, like he has two back pockets. He pulls two daggers out of his back and flips them and gets them in his palms, and he's like, "All right." Essentially he says, "All right," and you watch as Sir Flood runs at the Gorphs who are ready to attack. You watch as Sir Flood begins to get overwhelmed by the Gorphs. And I would say that there's about 15 Gorphs. What happens is while Flood is getting overwhelmed by the 15, he throws a water ball that knocks down, I would say, at least 3 of them. So there are currently 11 in the fight. Momo is defending you and making sure that none of the Gorphs are able to get towards you or the horses. And he's fighting at least one of them. So that is 10 Gorphs unbothered.
I go up next to one and start pulling its ear back.
Alright. You go up to one of them and you start messing with its ear and pulling its ear back, and something begins to happen. You begin to feel the emotions of this Gorph, and this Gorph is scared and is hungry. He is able to get you off. Let's say he's able to essentially hit you off. So that one Gorph with its hit did about 30% damage to you. So if your health is at 100%, then I'm going to say that's close to like 30 points of damage. So now you're at 70 health. And Momo sees what's happening, and Flood sees what's happening, and Flood begins and hurls a water ball at the Gorf that just hit you, and it hits him too, and does approximately 89 damage. That Gorf is essentially put down. That Gorf is now on the ground and is having trouble breathing. After that, Momo sees you, sees what just happened, sees the Gorf go down, and sees another Gorf approaching you. And he attempts to run at the Gorf, and you see him, he's like, "Ah!" And he's running at the Gorf with both of his knives raised, and you just see him trip. And it's like he trips over another Gorf that was already knocked down because of Flood, and you just see him go and just starts like rolling and whacks into a tree and hurts himself for 97 damage. Momo is unconscious. Momo knocks himself unconscious, and you just see Flood and you look at him, and everybody else just watched it happen. All the Gorfs stop fighting, and they all just look at Momo lying there on the ground unconscious, and after the events of him rolling and hitting the tree as hard as he can and just flopping down like a cartoon character, all the Gorfs look at each other, then look at you two, look at Momo, look at each other, look at you and Flood, then look at each other, then look at Momo, and slowly begin to walk towards Momo.
Not my Momo. I start flying as fast as I can over to Momo.
You get to Momo as fast as you can, and you begin to attempt to pick him up. You are able to pick him up because he's attached to the tree, and what you do is essentially you just pick him up and slide and glide him up the tree, whacking his face and ears against every single branch on the way up. His like fresh cut is now like getting like grazed against the tree branches and bark and stuff like that. He's gonna wake up, he's gonna be so sore. You do 1% of damage to him. Now he's at 2% health and he's still unconscious. Flood sees all that happening and runs toward you and Momo, and swings his sword to decapitate, because he has a wide wingspan, to try and decapitate at least 3 of the Gorphs. He too trips and is unable to fully swing at the Gorphs. He runs, he's like, "Ah!" and begins to swing, and you watch as he trips and the sword gets stuck in a tree, and he falls face first onto the ground, and he looks up to see that the Gorphs are now surrounding him.
Do I just have to do everything myself? I fly up into the air, sprinkle my fairy dust on Momo, and rush to Flood.
You did not set Momo properly down on a branch, and you see him begin to slide down as you try to sprinkle fairy dust on him, but it doesn't quite go as planned, and you see him just begin to slip off of the branch that you had sat him on. You do not catch him, and Momo begins to fall down the tree, hitting every single branch on the way down. and falls and hits his crotch on an uprooted tree root as he hits the ground. And takes 10 damage. Momo is dead. Momo is currently dead. You and Flood both see Momo die, essentially, and Momo freaks out, and as he's surrounded by the remaining Gorphs, he essentially gets up and rotates, swings, and decapitates all of them. He decapitates 4 of the remaining 11, and you see one of the Gorphs have his blade stuck in his neck and looking at Flood as all of this is happening. What do you do?
Fly down to Momo and keep sprinkling dust on him.
You fly down to Momo and you're able to get down close enough, and you begin to get fairy dust on him that healed him and made him unconscious earlier. You don't know whether or not this will bring him back, but you do it anyways, and you watch as Momo begins to essentially come back to life. He was originally at, I would say, negative 20 or so, and permanent death happens at when the negative reaches your full lifespan. So for you guys it is 100, so negative 100 to negative 50 and stuff like that. And Momo begins to perk up a little bit. He's still unconscious. He doesn't know what's going on. He's still on the ground. His balls are gonna hurt. His back is gonna hurt. You can see that his face is like, it looks like someone like rode a tire over his face because of all the like grooves that are cutting out into his face. And Flood sees you appear to put dust on Momo, and he finds the strength to drive the sword the rest of the way through the one Gorf and continue to decapitate the rest of the Gorfs. Not at all, because his sword is just permanently stuck in the Gorf that he's slowly trying to axe it like he's chainsawing it out. He's trying really hard to pull it like the 2-person chainsaw. He's like slowly like making the child Gorf more uncomfortable, because you can see that it's slowly going in and out of his neck. And you see him go like, "I'm sorry," and he's still trying very difficultly to get it out of there. What do you do?
Just watch in amazement out.
You just watch in amazement?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's passive. Flood continues to essentially saw through the Gorf's back, and a Gorf gets on and bites him right through his thigh, through the metal, and bites through his thigh, and you just see as Flood just goes down. He's taken down to one knee by this one Gorph. And another Gorph goes and tries to bite him on his shoulder, but he misses because Gorph went down at the time that he jumped to go and get his shoulder, and you just watch as that Gorph just rams his head into the tree that Flood just pulled his sword out of before he started decapitating. And he is still surrounded by all these Gorphs, and all these Gorphs begin to try and jump at Flood. And all of them are slowly lunging out at the air, and Flood takes his sword and does nothing. He's slowly trying even harder to get his sword unstuck out of the one Gorph.
I see this happening, and I look down and see one of Momo's daggers, so I pick it up with all my strength and fly as fast as I can over, trying to hit at least one of them.
You manage to pick it up, and you start charging essentially at the Gorphs, and you're seeing that as you're going, it's slightly a little too heavy for you, so you're like, oh, this should work, and you fly right up on top of one of the Gorphs and just let go. And you watch as the knife falls down and hits into the top of the head of one of the Gorph children, and it is the one that bit him on the thigh. And you just watch as that Gorph goes and just falls down dead on the ground. It looks like Sid from Ice Age when he got hit in the head in one of the movies, and he was like, and you see that Flood is now looking at you, and he feels the blessment from you, and all of a sudden you see that he begins to glow a shining watery blue and begins to strike at all of the Gorphs remaining and decapitates all of them in 3 swift motions. You, Flood, and Momo have successfully killed all of the Gorphs, except for one who is lying down on the ground where Flood had hit him with a water ball.
Flood, I don't know about you, but I'm tired and I'm ready to go now. Can we grab Momo?
Flood walks over to the Gorph and takes a dagger out of his backpack and pins the Gorph child up onto a tree and stabs the dagger through him and leaves all the bodies as a warning, and walks over to you and Momo and checks in on you two.
I think my dust helped Momo, but he's still unconscious, so let's throw him over the horse and get out of here.
You see as Flood takes a glowing green potion out of his bag and slowly lifts Momo's head and slowly begins to pour the liquid into Momo's mouth. You see that Momo is now, his eyes are now beginning to open, and he is healed 27% more. So he is now able to walk. He's limping slightly, but he's able to walk. He's a little bit drowsy. He should be better after a good night's sleep. And
Wonderful.
Momo looks at you and says, "Was I helpful?"
Very helpful, Momo. Thank you.
Momo looks like up at the sky with his eyes like now closed. He goes like, "Yay! Ow! Why
Come
do
on,
my
Momo.
balls hurt?"
Come on, Momo. Let's go so we can get out of here.
Okay, why do my balls hurt?
I'm gonna tell you
And he
later.
slowly is like walking like he just got kicked in the balls, just like slowly walking very painfully. And he's like, I'll just get on my tum-tum, and just hops on his stomach on the horse and sets you on his back and says, "You drive."
You coming, Flood?
Flood takes a potion out of his bag as well and drinks it, and you watch as he is healed. The bite mark that went through his armor is now healed completely. There's no more blood coming out of his leg. He is perfectly fine. And he has been healed and is at 100%. He hops on his horse of Egghead and looks at you and Momo sitting very strangely on Titty and goes, "All right, now we listened to you and we almost died. Sir Sid, maybe. Next time you hear someone crying in the woods, unless you know them personally, do not go in the woods." And he's like slowly like tapping the horse, and you can hear that even this horse kind of has like a little wooden rubbery texture to him. And you all get back on the path and start the actual journey to Blumstill. After about a day, approximately about maybe 18 hours into your guys' trip, it is nightfall. You wasted a good bit of light in that fight and getting out of the town and dealing with the king. Let's say that it was probably about 5 a.m. when you were summoned, and now it is about midnight while you guys are on the road. And Flood looks at you and Momo and pulls two makeshift tents out of his bag, and Momo pulls a tiny little elf fairy shaped tent out of his back pocket. He goes like, "This is for you." You can see that it was like handmade and like it had a lot of effort put into it. It's like he like took parts of Flood's cape without him noticing and made it into the tent while you guys were like riding along, and Flood never noticed. And Flood goes like, "Why does that look familiar?" Wait a second. And he goes and looks at his cape and goes, "Momo!" And Momo sits and goes like, "Here," and then begins running away, and you just see Flood start chasing him with his sword. I'm like, "I'm gonna kill you! Just toss me 5,000 gold pieces!" And Momo is running away, and you hear him in the distance go, "You were scammed! You were scammed! It only cost actually 36 silver pieces!" And he's like running away as fast as he can because he's like, even that he's in the wrong for what happened. But as you're watching him run away, you see that he's running like Waluigi from Mario. And it's very funny. As you guys are running, you get in your tent, and you realize it is the perfect size. It's nice, it's soft, and it was made with care, so it's gonna last. And Momo and Flood get back, and Flood walks up and opens a little thing and starts putting rocks around and some sticks and some what looks like leaves and stuff or hay, and begins hitting flint together, and all of a sudden it lights up, and you now have a fire going. And Momo walks up behind him and is holding what appears to be a rodent. I would say probably about like the size of a large rat, but too small to be like a rabbit. And Momo looks at this, food!
Oh, thank goodness, I'm hungry.
And he holds it in front of you, goes like, "Are you ready?"
I'm ready, let's go.
And Momo begins to carefully skin the rat, and gets a skewer and guts it, and begins to like clean out like the poop sack and stuff like that, and sticks the skewer right through the rat, and then places him on the fire. And after a little while, it cooks perfectly, and you see Momo go and sprinkle a little something on the rat, and all of a sudden you see a green mist fly off of the rat.
That looks appetizing.
And after a little bit, Momo goes like, "It's ready!" and goes and grabs a like a leg off it, goes like, "Momo is starving," and takes a bite out of it, and you see his color come completely back. Momo, using essentially herbs and spices from the forest, has healed himself. And you can see from the way that rat looks, its finger looking good.
I want some of that, Momo.
He tears off one of the front arms and hands it to you.
Oh, thank you. Oh.
You see that Flood goes and rips off one of the other back legs and like lifts his helmet just enough that you can see that he has a blonde beard and has what appears to be a scar going through his lips from top to bottom. You can't see much more than his mouth, but you can see that much. And he goes and takes a bite, and you see that he's like, "Oh, Momo. Now I understand why you are always so much more happy with food instead of training." Momo, with a mouth full, goes, He's trying to talk, but his mouth is just full at the moment because he said that as he was taking him, and puts a thumbs up. Flood laughs and smacks him on the back, and you just see Momo and spit out a small portion of his food, and then look up at Flood because he's upset because he just wasted like a good bite. Then looks at you, looks at him, and just goes back and takes another bite. And then Flood pulls out his backpack out of his bag and says, "All right, here you go," and hands you a flask of water. Hands Momo a flask of water, and sets a flask of water down by his feet. He looks at you two and says, "You know, me and Momo have been working together for a very long time. And I am very, very grateful of this man. Do we always get along? No." And Momo looks up at him and says, What do you mean? Momo want to know what you mean by no." And he looks at Momo and says, "When you and me first met, we didn't quite get along." And Momo looks at him and says, When we first meet, Momo remembers you and him meeting in cafeteria before I became your apprentice." And Flood looks at him and goes like, "Yeah, you kind of took my, what sounds like a chicken tender, the way that he's describing it." And he's like, "You kind of took my chicken tender and I wasn't okay with that. You didn't ask." And Momo says, "But you took my whole tray. I took my food back. You took my tray." And he's like, "See, we'll never get past this." And they both look at you, and Momo asks, "Do you have friends?"
I guess you could say that, but I'm more of a state of myself type of person. Till you, Momo.
Momo scoots slightly closer to you. "Tell Momo more."
Well, being a human comes with a lot of baggage, and I choose to just stay to myself.
Momo looks at you and begins to nod, scoots slightly further away because he doesn't understand at all. He's always been a goblin. And looks at Flood and says, Flood. Can I have some of the food that you put in your backpack?" Flood looks and says, "No, that's in case of emergencies, in case we can't find any food or we're in an area that we can't have food." And Momo goes like, "This is an emergency. I'm out of food." And both you and Flood look down, and the rat is just gone. There's nothing left, not even bone. The rat's just gone. And Flood looks at it, goes, "That was for all of us, Momo." Momo goes like, "Eaters will be eaters." And just like falls back. You can tell that his stomach is slightly engorged, like he ate something very big. And you just see him slowly begin to push himself into his tent. And Flood goes, "All right. Well, that'll be some training." Shall we call this a night?
We shall. Good night, Floody boy.
And he reaches out to shake your hand. And he takes your hand and starts to lightly shake it. And he gets up and wanders and gets in his tent.
And I fly over to mine and lay down all peaceful.
You fall asleep and you find that everything is so much better in the morning. You don't feel hurt. MoMo looks fantastic. Flood looks like Flood. And the horses are okay. They look like they've had a day, but they're fine. And MoMo packs up your tent after you get out. Flood packs up his and theirs, kicks over some dirt into the fire to knock it out. And Flood looks at you two and says, "Alright, you two get on Titty. I'm gonna get on Egghead. And we have a little bit longer to go before we reach Blumstill."
All right. Let's go.
And the three of you ride once more towards Blumstill.